Hey, it's me, Rykor. Today we're going to have a look at the Vault of Time final boss teams. Now, there will be a link in the description showing each and every single team, as well as their substitutes and pets that you can equip to help you along the way. Now, I'll also include gate boss teams as well. This will greatly benefit you and allow you to one-shot these bosses so that you can get to the final boss right over here. Now, the final boss will have these four abilities. Now, depending on which one you weaken on the beacon that you choose, this will greatly inflate the amount of damage that you can deal. Now, this will either greatly affect your melee or ranged units. So I'll not be using this in this demonstration. So we will have a look at the simple teams that you can use at any weakened state. Now, there are a couple of teams that do extremely well. And the first team that does extremely well is the Awakened Belinda based team. Now, this team over here is made up of Palmer, Awakened Belinda, Rosaline, who follows Awakened Belinda, Larvatune, and Jiro. Now, the pet that you need is Talisman right over here. Now, this team over here does damage between 10 to 14 billion, depending on the investment of your heroes, and they can deal even more damage the more investment you have and the type of artifact that you have included as well. So as we can see, I did 12 billion damage, most of the damage coming from Awakened Belinda. Now, one thing that you need to take into consideration is the artifact that you use for your team over here. So when you have a look at the teams, this is the next team, you can see that each of them have their own artifact. Now, a critical role will be this Luminous Flight artifact. What this does, this will give you immunity to fatal damage, allowing your allies to use their ultimates a couple of times more to survive longer and allow your main damage dealers such as Rem or Awakened Belinda to deal even more damage. So this is the second team that is extremely powerful. My team does around about 9 billion damage, so we can have a look over here. It is made up of Grizzle, Rem, Mortis in the top position, then we have a Stroder in the middle, and Twins in the bottom position. Now, pets will range from either Winged Lion or Owl over here. So let's have a look. All right, so we're going to have a look at the damage. So right over here, we can see that my team did 9.7 billion damage. The main damage dealer over here is Rem. So we're going to have a look at the third team. So each of these teams heavily depend on your support heroes. So I would highly recommend equipping the Luminous Flight artifact. So the next team we're going to have a look at is this team over here. Now, this team is made up of Damia, Desira, Rykor, Awakened Athalia, and Liberta right over here. Now, all of these heroes deal a significant amount of damage. However, the two main allies are Awakened Athalia and Liberta. Now, the pet that I'm using is the Pandy Dumpty pet. This will allow Liberta to survive much longer and deal more damage. So let's have a look at this team right over here. As we can see, this team did 9.1 billion damage, and we can see the main allies that did all the damage. Now we also need to take into consideration the healing and the various other support that the other allies provided. Now, each of these allies need to be in this particular position. The reason for this, even if you swap them by one position, you can easily gain or lose around about 1 to 2 billion damage, especially on these high-end teams. Now we're going to have a look at the fourth team right over here. Now, each team is highly dependent on the heroes that focus on the main damage dealer. So the next one we're going to have a look at is the Awakened Solise team. So the main damage dealer will be Solise and Eugene over here. Now, this team is extremely powerful as they have a lot of support coming from 4 allies being Awakened Solise, Joanne of Arc, Saurus right at top, Hodgkin down the middle, and Eugene over here. Then the pet that you can use is either Winged Lion or you can use Blade Ridge. So let's have a look at this team. So right, we can see that this team did around about 5.7 billion damage, and most of the damage came from Eugene. Now, the other heroes greatly support Eugene to allow him to be extremely effective in battle. Now, the special power or awakened skill can either be Awakened Solise or Eugene. However, with more consistency, you'll have to use Awakened Solise. So let's have a look at the fifth team that I've put together. Now, this team is made up of Verthor, Yorin, Awakened Brutus for his special power, Silas, and Ivan over here. So the pet that you can use is either Winged Lion or any melee heavy focused pet. So most of the damage comes from Yoren and Veathor right over here. The rest of the allies are simply there to either provide defensive or healing based capabilities. Right, they did 3.5 billion damage, and as we can see, these are the allies and how they did in battle. The team is made up of Awakened Baden, Anasta, Mishka, Navanti, and Screg over here. So from this particular team, we can see that each of my allied heroes have a different class associated to them. Now, most players will be able to get between 2 to 3 maxed out classes. So I would highly recommend sticking to 2 classes and getting the third one to nearly maxed out or halfway in between, so you can get the maximum damage for this particular event. Now, the classes that I would highly recommend is either going for tanks as your main class, then either branching off either to warriors or mages, depending on which one you have and the most heroes that you have built from there. And then the other one that I would recommend only going for the defensive relics would be the support class over here. Now, this class, such as rangers, where you only have one ally, you can equip the beacon or the soul beacon. This will get them immediately to the maximum tier relic that you currently have. So let's say your tanks are maxed out. Then this will apply to your other allies, such either Awakened Baden or your Anasta, depending on which soul beacon hero that you choose to apply to. So let's have a look. Alright, so this team over here does 3 billion damage, and most of the damage comes from a wide variety of allies such as Awakened Baden, Anasta, and Mishka over here. Most of the other allies provide a significant amount of defensive capabilities, such as Anasta, her healing, Mishka, her shields, and Screg through his damage and damage reduction capabilities. In addition, he also provides energy for the team as well. So those are all the teams. However, in the description, there will be more teams for you to try out, chop and change to your current hero roster.